Who'd I vote for the Heisman Trophy? I'll tell you next.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Monday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. My name is Barrett Sallee. Thank you guys for making this your first listen every single day. Really do appreciate that. You can follow me on all the social media platforms at Barrett Sallee. 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 L's, and 2 E's. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. You place a $5 bet at FanDuel.com. You win it, you get $150. That's right. You win your first $5 bet, they will give you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We have a busy show today. We will talk a little bit about the college football playoff and what to expect in the aftermath of round 1 should certain things happen. We'll also talk about the future of bowl games. Some news was made on Sunday. I should say Saturday, on maybe some shakeups in the bowl circuit. So we'll talk about that. But first, the Heisman Trophy. I don't think there's any surprise that the Heisman went to Travis Hunter. He was the odds-on favorite on FanDuel to begin with, going in to the event pretty much all November as well. So not much of a surprise. I don't think there's any surprise at all that Ashton Jeanty was in the top 3. I think there maybe was some debate as to Dillon Gabriel or Cam Ward, the other 2 finalists, who would be third, right? Turns out it was Dillon Gabriel and then Cam Ward coming in 4th. And then you can see the list from 5 to 10. It's kind of all over the place. But I'm going to tell you my ballot. I take my Heisman Trophy ballot very seriously. I've been a voter since 2016, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. And I do consider it an honor to be a voter. My ballot this year, and I'm showing it to you on screen, but I will also rattle it off for those of you on audio. Number 1, I had Ashton Jeanty. I had Travis Hunter, number 2, and I had Dillon Gabriel, number 3. Now, I will say this. With Dillon Gabriel at 3, I considered Cam Ward. I considered Dylan Sampson as well. And quite honestly, it's insulting that Dylan Sampson didn't even finish in the top 10. That's insane. But why Ashton Jeanty? First of all, there's individual success. I kind of break up my ballot into 3 separate sort of pieces, right? There's just pure success. There's how that performance translates into overall team success. And then there's value. And I think for Ashton Jeanty, first, the individual success is off the charts. I think it's fair to say, unless something happens, he's averaging, $192 per game. He only needs 140 to break Barry Sanders' record. So a subpar performance in the national quarterfinal could still send him past Barry Sanders as the single season rushing leader. He's done this for a team where everybody knows what's happening and nobody can stop it. That includes Oregon. He was the driving force in that week 2 loss on a walk-off field goal. And he's the only reason they stayed in that game. He's the only reason they're in the playoff. Ashton Jeanty with almost 2,500 yards at this point in the season. And you look at after contact, it's something like 1,900 after contact. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So that's the first part. Individual success. Ashton Jeanty has that. Now, we can say Travis Hunter does too, and there's no doubt about that. I'm not going to argue that he's a generational talent, 2-way player. So I'm not going to compare those two. You can, from that category, in that department, Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty, they're right there together. Individual performance into overall team success. Now, that is what separated Ashton Jeanty from Travis Hunter. Boise State's in the playoff. Not only is Boise State in the playoff, Boise State has a bye in that playoff. That, to me, yes, granted, it's a group of 5 team. The schedule wasn't that difficult. Fine. Neither was Colorado's in reality. Yes, Travis Hunter had Colorado in the playoff mix until what? Mid-November? That's awesome. That's fantastic. but Ashton Jeanty pulled his team through. He took the rock and he got the job done when it mattered most. You go back and look at that Mountain West championship game. It was pounding, man. It was ugly. It was just 3-4 yards. It was nothing big. And then bam, into the first half, he goes 78 or whatever it was. And then at that point, the ball just keeps rolling and Boise State cruises to the college football playoff. And it was like that all year, right? When Boise State needed him, he stepped up every single time. And that's why they're in the college football playoff. So that contribution into overall team success is very important to me. And that's why Jeanty, in terms of why he has the nod over Hunter, that's the big reason in terms of that particular bucket, so to speak. And then there's overall value, right? You take Ashton Jeanty off Boise State's roster. 6-6? 6-6? Because there were times where they didn't look good, where he was literally the only thing keeping them in the game. 6-6, 7-5, something like that. What do you do if you take Travis Hunter off Colorado? They're going to drop a game or two, but the gap is not that different. The gap is not that wide. In terms of value, I would say for Colorado, Shedeur Sanders is actually the more valuable player for obvious reasons, quarterback. Sure. But if you take Travis Hunter off of Colorado, they're still going to be pretty darn good. You take Ashton Jeanty off Boise State, they're a train wreck. Now, I know you can say, well, maybe Dillon Gabriel could check that box. And sure, he could. I think with that, though, you have a generational player in Dillon Gabriel, but you also have one right behind him in Dante Moore. Could Dante Moore lead Oregon to the college football playoff? He hadn't had the chance to show us, but it was a 5-star prospect for a reason, right? So I think from a talent perspective, you've got somebody behind Dillon Gabriel who 100% has the upside. It's a hypothetical to see if you could do it. But again, this is my opinion. I think you take Dillon Gabriel off of Oregon, they're still going to be pretty darn solid. So that's what differentiated Jeanty in that discussion in my mind. So that's how I have it. Jeanty, Hunter, Gabriel. I did not think that, and didn't expect, and that we weren't told this, that they were going to release, the Heisman Trust was going to release spots 5 through 10 late Friday night. They've never done that before. They've never, ever done that before, which surprised me because a lot of the reason they tell us to keep our votes private is because of gambling. But if you look at that, you can kind of decipher some things about where others did and didn't vote. So that actually did surprise me quite a bit. But another thing that really stood out to me, first, Kyle McCord, I don't know how he got in there because you have to have multiple people voting for you in order to get in the top 10. I mean, you saw the points. The points were broken out on the show on Saturday night. How did Dylan Sampson not get anything? Because honestly, in my mind, I said at the beginning of the show, Dylan Sampson and Dillon Gabriel and Cam Ward too, they were all, in my mind, battling for the third spot based on how I operate. Because you look at Dylan Sampson, overall team success, how important is he? Tennessee wouldn't be in the playoff without him. Video game numbers, he's got them. Value, totally there. It goes to show how I think position players are viewed nationally. They get overshadowed, right? Had Ashton Jeanty not existed in this world, Dylan Sampson would have probably been a finalist. And yet, because Jeanty's setting all kinds of records and Dylan Sampson's not able to do so, he gets forgotten about. So that surprised me. I was floored. I was this close. I'll tell you what I was, and if you're listening and I watch, my fingers are real close together. I was this close to having Dylan Sampson as my number 3. I can't believe it. I can't believe that he was out of the top 10. That's crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will talk about bowl games. Are there too many? What's the future? There are a lot of different angles to attack this, and we'll do it next. It's College Football Smothered and Covered, and of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and you can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right there on the same page you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. FanDuel.com, they'll get you started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. There is no such thing as too many bowl games. No such thing. And now Louisiana Tech at 5-7 got a late invite to the Independence Bowl. Why? Because Marshall bowed out because they had 20-odd transfers after Charles Huff left. That sucks for Marshall. It sucks for the kids. I don't know if a lot can be done to rectify it other than mandating in these players' NIL contracts that they stick around for bowl games. And if they don't, they pay some money back. It's an easy fix from a legal standpoint. I'm not a lawyer, although I do have 2 legal victories in small claims court under my belt. 1, an eviction of one of our rental properties, and 2, a small claim about an air conditioning that did not get fixed. But not to pat myself on the back, I just did do that. Legally, I don't know if you could sit there and say, all right, player X, you're going to get $100,000, but if you transfer before the bowl game, you got to give 15 back. I don't know if that's going to pass the smell test legally, but it's a way to prevent it. But it sucks for those Marshall kids who stuck around because they earned it. Bowl games are privileges. They're not participation trophies. They are rewards for players who work their tails off all year long. They get bowl swag. They go to cool places sometimes. It's fine. It's a way to enjoy the season. And if fans think nobody watches, you're wrong. They do. Ratings prove it. And they're TV shows, and they're very successful TV shows. And it's a place to chance to showcase your talent on a national stage. It's great. So I feel bad for those Marshall players. I really do. They deserve better. Now, we had Sonny Cumbie, the head coach of Louisiana Tech, on SiriusXM College Sports Sunday on Sunday. And his stories were so fascinating because he said Friday night he started to get wind that this thing could happen, and that luckily Louisiana Tech is on the quarter system, so a lot of his players were still around. He already did the exit interviews, but a lot of his players were still on campus finishing up classes, whatever. So that part was easy, but he had seniors all over the place. He had to gauge their interest and see if they could come back to campus and play, and they were all for it. That's how important this game is. That's how important bowl games are to a lot of different teams and individuals. They will completely change their schedule to come back and play with their teammates for another game. So go back and listen to that interview. It's very interesting with everything that Sonny Cumbie said. But it shows that a lot of players understand that their legacy is not just built with what they do in the regular season or what they do beyond their eligibility in college football. It's how they operate within the team structure and shows how healthy a program is. And even though Louisiana Tech did not qualify for a bowl game with its record at 6-6, getting the call from the bullpen at 5-7 and scrambling to make this thing work shows that he's got that program going in the right direction. And they lost a lot of close games this year. So those players deserve one more chance. But so how do you fix this, right? I think the NCAA has done a really good job in doing everything they can to protect lower to middle tier bowl games. The 4-year, the rule that came about from COVID, but the rule that said that bowl games don't count towards your 4 games of eligibility before you burn a red shirt. That makes a ton of sense. And that really has nothing to do with COVID. You had all these players opting out of bowl games. So you had really thin rosters. LSU, the year Brian Kelly got hired, right before, well, the year that Ed Orgeron got fired, Brian Kelly was there scouting his team in the New Orleans Bowl, or the Texas Bowl, I guess, one of those two. And they had like 30 scholarship players. LSU did, because they all left. You can't have that, right? So you have to find a way to get players some looks, and not counting that game toward a red shirt is the way to do it. Jackson Arnold for Oklahoma had a great chance to do that last offseason. Really won the job before that, but still did a great job for Oklahoma in that Alamo Bowl. Nico Iamaleava did for Tennessee. So having that as part of it is a good step forward, because what you've seen for these lower to middle tier bowl games is that they've sort of replaced the spring game. 10 years ago, everybody was banging their chests over spring game attendance, and they were doing all this stuff to show off to recruits and all this other stuff. And then coaches realized, hey, you know what? Having our offense on tape from the spring so opponents can see it, probably not a good idea. So spring games became not even glorified practices. They were pretty bad, watered down practices. So bowl games have become a way to see the future, right? You've had players transfer out, transfer in, you see what they can do. But if you're in a situation like Marshall, you have a coaching change and everybody leaves, you miss out on that opportunity. So contractually, there has to be some way for players to leave after a bowl game with an agreement with the coach. So you either give money back or you do what Tulane's doing with Ty Thompson. And I get to that point because it's not the only time that this has popped up, but Ty Thompson's starting the bowl game for Tulane. He's already announced his transfer. He's using it as a way to showcase his talent, to find another place to start. John Summerall deserves a ton of credit for this, because this guy worked his tail off as a backup to make Tulane better. Never got a chance to play, at least meaningful snaps. Never did. But was a valuable piece of the puzzle. And to give him the opportunity to say, hey, look, if you want to transfer, that's fine. If you don't want to stay here, that's fine. But if you do, you're going to start the bowl game. We're going to help you out. That's what it's all about, right? You hear a lot of coaches, like Nick Saban always said, it's all increasing your value, right? That's value on the football field, value academically, spiritually, all that other stuff. Nick always said, it's all about creating value, maximizing value. If you're going to live by that mantra, you better reward the players who stick around, even if it's just for another month, to give them the best shot of individual success. If Ty Thompson doesn't feel like he can have the best success, his best chance to go to the NFL or become a great accountant or whatever at Tulane, fine. But he deserves the opportunity. So that's a way I think bowl games can definitely help as well. But I hate it for Marshall, man. I hate it. This is not the way things are supposed to be. And it kind of goes back to unintended consequences, right? This is a direct result of horrible management in terms of creating a calendar by the NCAA. And the stubbornness it showed over the last 10 years. All of this could be avoided. All of it could have been avoided. If we had just had the conversation 10, 15 years ago, okay, players are going to get paid. How do we figure out how to make this work in harmony with everything else that's going on? You could easily have made the entire sport a little less dysfunctional. But now we have legally players leaving and ruining the opportunity of the rest of their teammates. It's awful, man. It sucks. We'll take a break. When we come back, there is one college football playoff game, first round game, that means a ton. And we'll talk about who it means a ton to next. It's college football smothered and covered. And of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all of the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into the first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 Eastern time. Don't miss any moment of the action. Watch College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Okay, so we have 4 games this weekend. I will be at Notre Dame, Indiana on Friday. Can't wait for that. The late night Saturday night game. And I was talking to a buddy of mine on Saturday. He's like, you're going to Notre Dame on Friday. Why don't you drive over to Columbus and do the double dip? I thought about it for a second. Like, that might be pretty fun. Not going to do it. But that last game, the night game on Saturday, Tennessee and Ohio State. I know Ohio State fans don't like to hear this. The shoe is going to be filled with orange and white. I'm talking 35,000 Tennessee fans. I firmly believe that the Tennessee-Ohio State game will look a lot like the Georgia-Notre Dame game in 2017 when it was like 40,000 Bulldog fans. It was a de facto home game. And it leads me to one of the most interesting storylines. Why? Why will there be so much orange at the shoe amidst the scarlet and gray? And it's because of the situation that Ryan Day finds himself in. It's more unique than anything that we've seen. Ohio State is in the college football playoff. They have a chance to win the national championship. And it seems like the collective feeling from the fan base is just like, get it over with. Like, wow. The Michigan game soured you guys that much. It turned all of you into that big of cynics. It's unfathomable, man. But that is exactly why Ryan Day is in this miserable situation. The malaise that exists within that program is going to do irreparable harm if things don't change over the next 5-6 days. Buy your tickets, Ohio State fans. Support your coach. Don't go there to make a statement. Go there to support a run at the national championship. Otherwise, Tennessee is going to come in there, not only embarrass you as fans in the stands, but embarrass your football team. And believe me, Ryan Day, it's hard to win national championships. Ryan Day has been in the playoffs. He's been one game away from winning a national championship. He's been one kick away from going to another national championship game, and I think would have killed TCU the same way Georgia did. All you want is a chance. And Ohio State gets this. Ryan Day gets this. So get off your asses. Recognize that the malaise that it seems is all over that program will do irreparable harm if you don't show up and show out on Saturday night. It's not going to attract any other coaches. The scarlet and gray, that color, that helmet, the tradition, yeah, it's nice. But a lot of coaches are going to look at that and be like, dang, I get fired if I lose. It takes me less than 10. I lose less than 10 games and I get fired. Like, come on. Be careful what you wish for, Ohio State fans. Be careful what you wish for. Hey, become a College Football Smothered and Covered Insider. The subtext group is below. You can click on the link. We can text each other. I'll be up in South Bend Thursday night and all day Friday So I'll share some cool things in and around campus with you, maybe a little bit from the casino on Thursday night as well. Thank you for making this your first listen. For your second listen, go check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does a great job. You can also check out the conference channels, all kinds of stuff leading up to the first round of the college football playoff. We'll be back on Tuesday. Until then, have a great Monday, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.